Good morning, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order of the Regional Wastewater Advisory Committee for today, May 22nd, 2025. Thank you all for being here. Advisory board meeting members. It's always tricky in summer months, so we really appreciate you making the meeting. Thank you. I'm going to start with the call. I didn't call to order. Can we have the roll call, please? Yes.
Alan Forrest. Here. Alejandra Frejo Arce.
Here.
Arce, right?
Yes, you said it right.
Okay. Asia Philbin.
Here.
Claire Zucker.
Here.
Ray Canizaro.
Here.
Eric Sulwald.
Here.
Scott Oldendorf.
Here.
And we have 7 members. We have 4.
Okay, great. I'm going to go on with the virtual meeting reminders. Please mute your microphone. This will help ensure there's no feedback or background noises that may interfere with the speaker. If a committee member would like to speak or ask a question, please use the raise your hand feature. Remember to lower your hand once your question has been answered or you've finished speaking. When you're ready to speak, please unmute your microphone. This is especially important during votes. Do not forget to mute your microphone when finished. As a reminder, audience members are only permitted to speak during the call to the audience unless called upon by the committee. The meeting is being recorded to satisfy the open meeting law requirement. And we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, Steve. I'm going to move to item E, which is call to the audience. Is there any audience member that would like to make a statement or ask a, I guess you can't ask a question, make a statement? Hearing none, we will move on to the safety share. And what do we have today? Anybody? I look your direction.
You got one?
Yeah, last week, we had our entryway here walking in. We had staff who started at 6 o'clock and some people had walked in. And after that, some people were trickling in at 6:05 and they said to the other people who already walked in, hey, did you see that rattlesnake in that tree?
True.
So right under one of the ironwoods, right out front, was a big, 4 or 5 foot rattlesnake.
It was a 6 foot, it was a huge.
It was huge and it was fat, it was happy and it was staring right at a bird's nest. And later we saw it in the bird's nest and crawling around. But we put cones out. We don't always call for removal of snakes because we're in the desert area. What are you gonna do? But this one was a little too close for comfort. The people walking in and out. But it turns out that we don't have the same animal handling contractor anymore. We had to, we put the cones out, it eventually dropped and slithered away, but if snakes falling out of a tree weren't already a thought for you, it can happen. So, look up and down for the animals around you and respect them and their environment.
Wow.
So rattlesnakes falling.
Well, yeah, potentially fall on your head.
Yeah,
my
it was
goodness.
a large rattlesnake and
Yeah.
being in the tree right in a pretty busy thoroughfare was pretty amazing.
Right.
If you look at our PowerPoint that plays on the screen out front in the lobby, it will cycle around to the pictures of the snake in the tree when you're checking out today.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
We have a lot of javelina here too, so I'm waiting for one of those to jump out of the tree,
Okay, I'm going to give myself a travel safety share, which is I'm getting on a plane today and I have to remember to I want to wear my mask because I'm, have vulnerable people in my life and I always forget. And so I'm giving myself a reminder. And for those of us that do have vulnerable people in our lives, that's one thing we learned from COVID is that we have some agency. We need to protect ourselves or other people when we're sick or when we're taking care of others. So.
Good share.
And just to remind everybody, with construction on the highway, the next new long project is going to be over there on I-10 Keno to Country Club or something like that, Craycroft. So just know you're gonna be dealing with that for the next 2 years.
Any other safety shares this morning?
That was safety overload.
I know, we did really well today. Some days it's a little scant, but we did great. Okay, moving on to the approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes for the last meeting?
So moved.
A motion? Do we have a second?
Second,
Do we have any discussion? All those in favor of approval, say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. We're approved. We're going to go on to the director's update, item 8.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Just a couple things. First, to my left, I have Tracy Lidskog here. Tracy has assumed the role that Marla Berry used to perform for us, and that's kind of a larger admin oversight, but she has a tremendous financial background, but she gets to dive into things she never thought she wanted to now. But, you know, it's interesting from what I know of Tracy is I think she started in finance with the county. She's been with the county a number of years. Then she went to Parks and Rec and then wastewater. But most people in a career work their way up. She's kind of working her way down, but that's okay. Tracy, you have anything you want to say?
No, just good morning, everybody, and nice to officially meet you all, and you'll probably see me more often.
There you go.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, my next topic is I have to talk about instrumentation, process control, SCADA, compensation there. You know, I'm kind of going to focus on some personnel topics or in my brief presentation. Well, Jackson in brief, that's an oxymoron, but I'll try. That I would say that our instrumentation, process control, SCADA group is the most challenging by far to keep staffed. You know, we have the most vacancies there. We have been so, you know, and I won't say desperate, but that's probably the best word I can come up with. We actually had to hire outside contractors in that field, which there's not a lot of, and, you know, it's a learning process, but we're paying some premium dollars just to have a person with SCADA knowledge help us out, because we got down to one expert SCADA person, and you can't run a big organization like ours with that. We've worked closely with HR. We did get some relief in the way of some of our classifications in that field and the pay grades of those classifications, but everything takes time to kind of work through the process. So we'll see if we start getting more interest and are able to staff things ourselves. But then on top of it, this is not exactly a SCADA process control staffing issue, but because that building at Tres Rios, our operation control center, it's the hub of all of our servers and everything for SCADA. Of course, you have a backup power system there because it's super critical. Well, the backup generator failed, and we called Cumming, who we had the contract with, and they couldn't come out right away because they're understaffed. And then when they finally did come out, they found a problem with a piece of, you know, a part. And as you get older equipment, things become obsolete more quickly anymore. So the part they found that was, you know, was failed is no longer made and sold and manufactured. So they had to start looking worldwide to see, hey, maybe there's one in Europe or maybe somewhere else. I heard they just finally did find the part, but we went ahead and rented a portable backup generator for a month. And you'd be amazed at what they want for a piece of equipment that you may never even use. And we hope we don't need to use it, but you have to have those backups. And so even though we plan for it, even, you know, our own challenges, you know, we have a lot of service providers that also have their own challenges that just adds more complications to our business. And I just thought that was kind of the perfect storm, the unfortunate perfect storm. We had to spend extra money to get some help and to get some rental equipment in here, but that's the world we live in right now. Iterate, I'll keep you up on our SCADA process control instrumentation and let you know how that's going, but we do have some interviews. In fact, we had a couple interviews yesterday. We'll see if we're gonna hire anyone out of there, but, we'll proceed in that arena. Let's see, I think I'm gonna, I've talked many times about our Power BI, software that we use, that, every month we have, for instance, a big part of our business is, of course, our financial situation. So we internally in our department have monthly KPI, key performance indicator meetings where all of the different cost centers or areas are in attendance, and we go through our monthly cost updates and see how we're doing and ask a lot of questions. And our Power BI tracks so much information. It's just amazing what we have so much information at our fingertips. It's incredible. But we also, another KPI meeting we have every month is a lot of the other statistics, like personnel statistics or safety statistics or other things. So one of the monthly KPIs is everything else other than finance. And so here you see in front of you these different KPI topics, but I'm just going to go through those 4 slides on the left under employees, just to give you a flavor of that one. So these get kind of busy. I do have, Belinda gave me a pointer, and Belinda's driving the bus because she's the one that really is the backbone of creating the system for us. Of course, she'll tell you all the help she had, but without her, we wouldn't be where we are now. And we depend on this information and the KPIs through Power BI exclusively. And in fact, as the county has transitioned from their old finance software of Advantage, AMS Advantage, to now to Workday, there's been a lot of challenges with those transition and being able to get the information you want. We've relied on our Power BI that's still tracking things for many different methodologies and different data sources to be able to do what it is that we do. So, iterate here. I'm going to go. If you look at this line here, our department has 400 employees. And this is July through, April right now. That's because we still have May and June to go. So the 10 months of the year, of the fiscal year so far. Oops.
Let me reset it, Jeff.
Jackson, sorry.
Okay, no problem.
There you go.
I thought I broke it. It's Tracy's fault. Remember, we'll get away with that.
That's okay.
Okay. So this number here is how many vacancies we have at the end of each month or the beginning, whatever in the month we're taking a look at. I think it's the last end of the month. Thank you. So you could see that, at 400 employees, we're up at around or even over 10% vacancies, which I think is a huge deal. Each of these bars in here, different colors, they're telling us, the minus ones are how many people left us each month and why they left us. And then the positive ones up above are people that we've hired. They're either new hires or they're promotions. So we kind of keep tabs on all that as we go. And I say this often, and I don't know if this group remembers, but for an organization of 400 people, we fill over 100 positions every year. And it's just kind of a pretty consistent. About half of those 100-ish positions are new people from outside of the department, where they're hiring them from somewhere else from the county or from outside of Pima County employment. And the other half of the positions are promotions. So that's a good thing, but when you fill a vacancy by a promotion, you create another vacancy. So you're running on the hamster wheel there. But we look at all this stuff, look at trends. Here you could see, is this the one, Belinda, where the totals?
No.
Oh, that's on another slide. Okay, so just to FYI, let's go to vacancies. Here's the one. If you look at the far bottom right corner, you can see for fiscal year 24-25, we filled 100 positions so far, and this is the pattern in which we filled them, how many each month. We've had 103. In 22-23, we actually had 130. I don't know, that must have been the silver tsunami for sure in that year. We lost a lot of people. Here's an interesting statistic, how long it takes when a position is vacated. These are the average days in the month, you know, as we fill positions, how many days a position was vacant for those that we fill. So you can see we're in that 60, 70, 80, even 90 days. There's one over 100. But it's our goal to get it down to less than 60 days consistently, but there's a lot to do in the process. And so it's interesting to know that's kind of what it takes to fill a position. So every time you have turnover, you know, that's a challenge because you typically have to work overtime to cover the work and that type of thing. And it will take upwards of 3 months to get that position filled. And you're thinking, hey, we saved money on having the vacancy, which we do, but you pick up some cost on overtime and other things. And so it's kind of a give and take, but we always seem to have an overall vacancy savings because of this statistic of how long it takes to fill them. Let's see. And this, again, this color coding of the bar graph is, you know, which divisions, you know, where the vacancies occurred, and they're color coded up there. You know, which division.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
First of all, it's really great to have this data and can look at it broadly. And I'm guessing that it's hard to pull out reasons that people are leaving or, you know, any consistency on, I can see the consistency on hiring, it just takes so long, but how about the other side? How about the leaving side?
Yeah, so, you know, we do exit interviews for people that leave and, you know, of course, it's pretty obvious the ones that leave for retirement because they tell us, I'm retiring, yay, I'm done. In fact, one of our people in the audience today on the teams is Jim Dubois. He spent many years working for us and you can't get enough of a good thing. So he's back keeping an eye on us, but he was a big part of our success in the regulatory and compliance arena and permit area. So I just have to give a shout out for Jim Dubois being on the call today. Iterate, we have a number of people, you know, this is the sad part. You know, the county did a great effort by revamping the compensation program in Pima County and trying to make sure we're more competitive in the marketplace. We had to. And their goal was to be at the 50% competitiveness, meaning for any given position or classification, if you're out in the marketplace, you're going to find half the jobs pay more and half the jobs pay less. So, okay, well, I'd like to be in the game at least, you know, but we still find some areas like instrumentation, process control and SCADA where we don't find too many out there that are less. And so, you know, it's a dynamic process. They will continue to go through and update and look at those that are, you know, they're having longer lead times on filling vacancies or they're not keeping up. And they'll reevaluate and potentially adjust that pay grade if it needs to keep within their target. But we're fairly new into this new system. And so there's a lot of demands and a lot of challenges, but I think it's an improvement from the past because we do see more applicants per position than we used to. So that's a good sign. But still, we spend so much time in that employment side of things. And we've had people that have left. A lot of them have left for money. And we had a person that we spent a lot of time with, fairly new. They got some extra training time, long story. But they got an offer from Raytheon, and I don't know why we can't compete with Raytheon, but I thought we could. But the person said, look, I'd love to stay, and you don't even have to match Raytheon's salary offer. If you guys could just do this, I'll stay because there's so much to do here. It's exciting, you know, it's fun. But there really isn't those mechanisms in this type of organization. And I mean, some minor flexibility, but not on a regular basis. And so anyway, we lost a new good SCADA process control person to Raytheon, and we'll continue to get better at what we do. But it's a super important category for us. That's why we have these type of informations and presentations. So next slide, let's go to absenteeism rate. So I talked about a 10% vacancy rate, but also here on that top line, you know, you can see that most of those numbers are the absenteeism, and absenteeism is anytime somebody's not at work. It could be vacation, it could be sick, it could be bereavement, it could be military leave. It could be, believe it or not, somebody just doesn't show up to work. Believe it or not, that does happen. And so when you add all those up, I mean, we've tracked this number for as long as I've been here, 21 years. And I can tell you, I was surprised at how consistent it used to be pre-COVID. I would say we were 10% almost all the time. Is, you know, just the way it worked out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting statistic. So, hey, if you have a 10% vacancy rate and a 10% absenteeism, well, you got 20%, you know, that's more things you gotta deal with. And you have 100 employees you're putting in new positions, you know, it's like so dynamic, how do we get anything done, you wonder sometimes. But now, since COVID, you see these numbers here, you know, the average is 13% for the year. And you can see that, you know, 13% is kind of the rolling average, or I'm looking at the wrong one here. Yeah, so 13.3 was the year before, 12.7, so right around 13%. But I'm not the smartest or sharpest tool in the shed, but I'll tell you, if you used to be at 10% and now you're at 13%, that's a 30% increase in absenteeism. And, you know, the county's added another holiday to the mix, and the way that we used to look at sick leave was a lot more challenging for people to use it. And now, you know, through regulations and rules that have changed, it's you know, you don't really get to ask and push back much on sick leave. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. It just makes it easier for people to use those buckets of things they have, and our numbers have gone up, but that's the new norm, 13% absenteeism. So just another interesting statistic. And let's go to the last one for this series of stuff we look at, appraisals. And one other we're very strong on, and that is, you know, the county requires that every year, every employee gets a performance appraisal. So they have to have a performance plan and a performance appraisal. And we strongly believe that that's important, that, you know, of course, you're meeting with your employees regularly and have a lot of interactions, but have a formal one to let them know if there's areas that they could improve upon, or if they can develop upon, or find out what their career aspirations and career development plan is. So we can kind of keep that in mind. I wish I had the county statistic on this one, but you could see that on average, you know, we're over here just shy of 100% of performance appraisals, which is phenomenal, because it didn't used to be that way a long time ago. And I'm gonna venture to say this is by far the best in the county. And the reason I say that is because when we do hire people from other county departments, it's a requirement internally with us. You know, when we hire from the outside, we always check reference checks. You know, we always, okay, let's check it out. But when they are hired from the county, we ask to go see their official personnel file, and we go look at it. And I would say most of the time, we do not find an active appraisal or recent appraisal in there, so they don't happen. And some people, appraisals were 10 years old, or they don't have any in their file and stuff. So that's kind of unfortunate, but we take it serious and we track it. And if you don't measure it, you won't manage it. And that's how we get this high percentage, because we talk about it often. So I think that's it. Melinda, anything you want to add on anything of that? Any of those?
No, I was just gonna mention on the vacancies, Claire was asking like reasons.
Yeah.
We pulled this data from the workday,
Labor and,
report.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that we get from what HR enters in, as far as reasons, scroll over here, sir.
they always say it's Jackson's fault. That's what they all say. That's the default.
This next slide. So on retirements, it shows who the previous person that held that position was. And although, you know, some of these retired, it just defaults to terminated. That's how they log it, but so they don't necessarily get terminated. You look at Marla's, she retired, it shows terminated as well, but that's the only reason, I guess, that we have provided by HR.
That's,
But in our exit interviews, we do get,
Yeah.
and we do get a lot of the ones that are leaving for non-retirement reasons are for money, better opportunity. We also, some other ones that, I'm not gonna go into right now, but like under the finance side, like overtime is halfway down on the green over there. That's, another key value, we track as kind of a personnel value. We pay, we have some scheduled overtime based on how schedules are set. And we also have some that's overtime by need, but we track it all, but we keep that one in the finance pillar and the finance KPI. But again, more information. We have so much information we can look at and it's just amazing. And I just continue to be proud and want to show that stuff there at this organization. So, Eric.
Do you find that it's almost an information overload?
It can be, but, thanks to people like Belinda and others that have been putting it into these reports and stuff, it's like, Belinda told me once before, if you just look at data on a spreadsheet, this spreadsheet is like as long as a football field, I don't know how many columns, how many rows of data?
6 million, about 6 million.
6 million data points in there that, yeah, that's overload, but this Power BI allows you to make these canned reports that pull all the data from the right places. Somebody with a lot more smarts than me directs things in the right way. And so dummies like me can just click on that box, put a date range. If I want to know, hey, how's overtime for this month or this year or whatever, I just put a date range and it all comes magically appears. So it's not data overload anymore because of the ease at which you can access data without having to call somebody and say, hey, can you create, or can you give a report to me? It's now, we're getting to a very mature level where it's very simple. So that is amazing in itself right there. And this tool, I mean, I can't brag enough about what it can do for you. And I keep hinting to the county, there's a lot of other departments that could benefit, and some of them are trying to use some of it, but the county was kind of heading a different way. What was the software that they wanted to use? Clicks is kind of the newer report stuff, but we're staying with Power BI because we have so much vested in this and it's so effective and people are familiar with it now that I hope we don't change.
Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah, I see the benefit for you and particularly and for the department. It's all there and I think it allows you to do just what you did here, explain kind of what's going on, what your challenges are, what the negative impacts of, these vacancies and all of that. Have you had any success like rolling this up to the people that actually make those decisions as to, because that's where I see the benefit is, I mean, managing your day-to-day stuff is one thing, but getting that information and that download to HR or whoever to kind of argue your case.
Yeah, it's a very powerful tool to argue your case and help justify the requests that we make, and it makes it simpler in that regard. But we also, just as importantly, want to roll it down so people in the field know the impact of what they're doing, how it impacts our organization. So it's a both direction type of tool and equally important to go both ways.
Also, anybody in the county has access to it.
They do.
We have the COVID study, we had the health department looking at those numbers. So it's available for anybody in the county inside of the central book.
I gave a presentation on Power BI and what we do, and of course Belinda was at the bus driving seat again. But there was people calling, I mean, it was all the directors and stuff across the county, but they're like, oh my gosh, you could do that, hey, and they were calling Belinda like crazy, hey, how do you do this? And can you help us set something up? So it was spreading to some extent, but on some little niche that they needed, but millions and millions of data points are in ours, and it took a lot of effort to get to this point. And we're still not there, but it's always an evolving process. But it's great where we're at, and we use it all the time. And
I love the dashboards, and I was just thinking, from my past, it would have been really nice to have something where maybe it's, your 5 highest priority KPIs or something, with staffing or whatever, and just have that dashboard just kick out.
Yeah.
To who needs it, once a month or once a week,
What?
Cases.
Hold on, Eric?
Is this dashboard designed specifically for wastewater? Or is it a common dashboard that is used for a variety of different types of departments, you know?
So this was set up for us. I mean, we set it up, some people down close to me set it
Right.
up for the ones that we came up with and, but Power BI, if I say this right, Melinda, you pull the strings and see if I talk right for the puppet. But basically, we have 8, 10, 12 databases, huge databases, like our LIMS, Laboratory Information Management System, all the data for, there's hundreds and thousands. There's so many databases, they all are pulled into a warehouse. And KPI, you decide, what do you want to see? What kind of cockpit chart or what type of report do you want? And if somebody to go find those data points and set it up, and once they're set up, all you do is, you just keep tracking that data and you just put your date range in and it'll spit it out for you. But tomorrow, maybe we'll add another one of these, we got something else we decided is important or we want to look at. But, Claire, you asked the question about diving down into why people leave and stuff. Some things we have narratively, but not in a database form. But like safety statistics, that's a big one I love talking about. And there you can dive down. Not only is it how many reportable injuries or how many first aids or near misses or whatever, or how many vehicle incidents, but you can go down and see when it happened, what happened, you can dive down and it will spit the report out right there in front of you. So it's at your fingertips. You can do so much research very quickly with this tool.
And the name of the program?
Power BI, it's a Microsoft suite, Power BI.
Power BI.
I do want to mention now, on your question. We are obtaining data from other departments' databases, but we're only pulling wastewater specific data. A really quick example is our vehicle mileage. We're pulling that from a fleet-owned database, only providing wastewater vehicles.
And that's important, you're like, why do you care about the mileage? Is it depreciation or what? It's because we have a large fleet of vehicles for obvious reasons. And the county requires that each vehicle, if you have a vehicle, you better utilize it. And you have a minimum number of miles you have to use it, or else they'll take it back. And so we're paying attention. Hey, if somebody parked it for some reason, it's too dirty, they don't want to drive, what's going on? So, we have to have those types of conversations to manage all of our stuff effectively too. Okay. I think that's enough.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. It's really interesting. All right. We're gonna move on to Bobby Yu, who is going to be from the Pima County Attorney's Office. He's going to be.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if you want to sit here.
He's going to be talking about the open meeting law for all of us, so we're familiar with it.
Wait just a second, please. We're gonna switch over from that. Do this. There we go. Bobby. There you go. Take her away.
Good morning, everyone. So there are 47 slides here. We're not gonna go through every single slide in detail, because I'm told I have maybe about 10 minutes to go through it. So we'll hit the highlights. The slides are available for anyone who wants to go through anything in particular. The key is open meeting law is the sunshine law. The key is that it opens government business to public scrutiny and prevents secret decision making. This is through an Arizona Attorney General opinion, and that's how Fortson also interpreted it. There is a slew of statutes that really apply for open meeting law. Meetings shall be open to the public. Meetings of public bodies must be public. Anyone can attend and listen to deliberations and proceedings, and all legal action, which encompasses collective decision making, must occur in a public meeting. Staff is generally going to help with this aspect, but having the notices available and providing an agenda that really sufficiently conveys what will occur at the meeting. And generally, the interpretation of the open meeting law is that it is construed in favor of open and public meetings. So if there's any doubt, the court's probably going to look at it through that vein. Who must comply? There's a slew of state and local public bodies that this applies to. The key here is advisory committees under this statute. Even for an advisory committee making a recommendation to a public body, the open meeting law applies to advisory committee. What is considered a meeting? It's by statute. It is any gathering of a quorum in person or through technological devices, or something like this where it's hybrid, at which legal action is proposed, discussed, deliberated, or taken. A quorum is defined as a majority of a board or commission. So if there are 13 committee members, that's going to be 7 members. What is considered a legal action? That is a collective decision, commitment, or promise made by a public body pursuant to whatever may apply, such as bylaws. Meeting also includes any exchange of electronic communications, texts, emails, if it involves a quorum of members. So in a public body of 13 members, that's going to be 7 members. In terms of discussing, deliberating, or taking any legal action, really regards to anything that could come before the committee for action. It includes one-way electronic communications by one member, say to 6 other members within that quorum, proposes legal action. The example I put here was, I think we should support option 3. It doesn't have to be as specific as saying option 3 if it's within that topic that could be discussed. It is okay to communicate with the media. That's not an open meeting law violation, but it can't really be kind of a workaround to avoid any collective deliberation in a meeting. There are various open meeting law requirements. The notice, agenda, there's public attendance, there's meeting minutes that are involved. Staff will generally help with this in terms of having public meeting notices, basically giving information for how the public is going to be able to access the meeting so that they can listen in. Meetings have to be noticed at least 24 hours before. And this kind of goes into a little more detail, but the gist of it is really it's got to be at least 24 hours before. Notices are going to provide information about date, time, place, how to access it online or in person, and of course the agenda with the topics that will be discussed. Since 2020, there has been that possibility of a meeting being held remotely, and that this is basically information that goes into a notice to comply with open meeting law. The agendas themselves have to list specific matters to be discussed, considered, or decided at the meeting. It's got to provide information reasonably necessary to inform the public and the members. In other words, it's got to be detailed enough so if a member of the public is reading the agenda, they know what is being discussed. They can decide, do I want to listen in? Do I want to participate? They can make that decision based on what is on the agenda. The committee can only discuss, consider, or make decisions only on matters listed on the agenda and other matters that are closely related. Essentially, the gist here is it's got to be specific enough so that the public can understand what is being discussed. If it's too technical, if there are acronyms, it's just got to be explained in a way where the public can understand. In terms of public attendance, so the public has the right to attend, to listen, to tape record, and to videotape. Well, this commission called the public is part of the process. Under state law, it's actually optional. It's just that most public bodies will have a call to the public to allow the public to have a chance to speak. In terms of the public, otherwise, they don't have a right to speak except if allowed, required by statute or bylaws. The public, while they're allowed to speak, they can't go and disrupt proceedings. And this slide really just goes into some specifics. Under the First Amendment, it really is time, place, and manner restrictions for the public. Basically, can't prohibit a member of the public speaking based on their point of view. You can limit speakers' time so that everyone has the same amount of time, but it applies to everyone. Can prohibit disruptive behavior for public bodies that could have a lot of members. Certain public bodies have limited speakers based on repetition, but that's usually in a big city council context. If issues not on the agenda, members cannot discuss or enter in a dialogue with the speaker. At the end of the call of public, members can instruct staff to study the matter raised or ask, hey, let's place this matter on a future agenda, or respond to a personal criticism. In terms of virtual meeting attendance, this was the guidance from the Arizona Attorney General, to make it more accessible, asking members to identify themselves when they speak, asking participants to mute microphones and phones when not speaking so that only one voice is being heard at a given time, including copies of various documents and whatnot that go with the agenda, and of course, recording the meeting. Executive sessions won't come up too often here, but there are rare exceptions where business can be conducted in private. This really enumerates what those are. They are rare that a certain topic can be held in an executive session. And when there is an executive session, there are limitations for who can attend an executive session. Minutes have to be kept and made available to the public. There are really two ways the state statute allows for that to happen. It can be access to an audio recording or a video recording with audio. It can be through essentially a statement of actions afterwards, based on what the main discussion was, what the vote was. But there are two ways that can be met, and staff assists with that. It goes into date, time, place of the meeting, members present or absent, a general description of matters discussed or considered, what the legal actions were, and what the vote was. Some open meeting pitfalls that can occur and worth noting are the following. One is zero communications among a quorum. I kind of alluded to that earlier. Basically, if one member texts or emails about the topic that's going to be on the agenda, and it involves a quorum, that's obviously an issue under the open meeting law. But if, say, one member shared with another, who shared with another, who shared with another, and then some, even though that communication wasn't simultaneous, if it involves a quorum, that could be perceived to be a violation of the open meeting law. Splinter and polling is also not allowed. This is also an interpretation by the Arizona Attorney General's office, where individual members have those kind of separate discussions, and they're basically asking how others are going to vote, and it involves a quorum. The suggestion really is avoid even the appearance of impropriety in that regard. Some other related things, members can't use staff to circumvent open meeting law, like having them communicate on a member's behalf so that it goes out to other members and basically evades the meeting process for deliberation. So the big thing is circumventing the purposes of the open meeting law. That's what courts are really looking at. There obviously have been more emails and texts, and I think I mostly covered that earlier, but that's really the bigger danger in terms of open meeting law in a world where everyone is using emails, using group texts to communicate. In the legal world, we think of emails as evidence made available in litigation. It really applies to text at this point as well. It's okay to passively receive an email from staff. Being careful with reply all is a big thing with being careful with open meeting law. And the other possibility is because Tucson's a small community, there could be a quorum of members potentially that are at a particular event. Just being careful not to discuss anything that is really related to the business of the public body. Can talk about anything else. Just it's good to be careful about that. If there are any actions that are taken in violation of open meeting law, have to go back and ratify it afterwards, which it means bringing it back to a meeting and having a vote on it. It doesn't cure the open meeting law violation, but that may be necessary to make that action valid. And that general notice has to be at least 72 hours before. Staff can assist with that if that were to ever occur. Penalties for open meeting law violations. That's something that's definitely worth having in the back of your mind, because a member of the public, the Attorney General, or the County Attorney's Office can bring a lawsuit for an open meeting law violation, and the court can order compliance or prevent a violation from occurring. And these come with fines. So these are civil penalties. The county can't pay these for you. It is something that if court imposes it, a member would have to actually pay it for a violation. And giving a sense of what that is, first one, probably no monetary penalty, but for second and future ones, there could be fines imposed by the court. There could be reasonable attorney's fees that are awarded for the work to bring that case against the member. And if it's a really, really bad case with repeat violations, that could end up being a removal from that position for that member. So the public body can't pay a fine assessed against a member or really expend monies for legal services for that. Bottom line with all of this is if you focus on transparency, that's going to keep you out of trouble. It's going to build public trust in what you do. And it's going to make the meeting process productive for everyone. Thank you.
We've been telling them forever that it was the death penalty if they violated open meeting.
That's true, right?
We actually, this is many years ago, but in this committee, we had one member, and I won't mention names, but one member would reply to all people, you know, because they were on a distribution and they would reply to all. And we had to coach them that, hey, you're not allowed to reply to all. That's a violation of open meeting law. And they told us that you can't tell me who to talk to. Ultimately, they resigned because we were telling them who they couldn't talk to and stuff, but just some people have a different perspective and it's not meant to, you know, prevent somebody from that type of thing. You know, this is a great presentation to remind us all of what works and the way we're to do our business, so.
Blind copying is a good thing. It prevents that, right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's great. All right, thank you very much. That was excellent.
Does anybody have any questions for Bobby?
Yeah, does anybody have any questions?
You're all gonna do exactly what he said, right?
I think we have been. We're good, we're good. Perfect. All right, we're gonna move on then. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming in. We're moving on to the financial plan, a final review and vote, and Art, you're here to provide us an update. Art, do you want me to share the plan?
It's not necessary on my end. Madam Chair,
Okay.
members of the committee. submitted with your packet materials for this meeting was the updated financial plan with the changes that the committee requested coming out of our last meeting. My understanding is those changes have been made and the document is ready to go for your approval before we submit to the Board of Supervisors for the June 17th public hearing that Jackson and I will be, I think Jackson and I will be leading that effort on June 17th. Once again, I don't have a formal presentation as this is the plan that we've been working on for the last at least 5 months of my tenure with the county. And I believe it dated back to the October, November timeframe as well. So I will pause there, ask for any specific questions, and turn it back over to the chair.
Does everybody have a chance to look at this, look at the plan, the final plan? Does anybody have any comments or questions? I don't know if you have seen anything. I didn't see anything when I looked through it that concerned me, but others? No?
Nope.
Any other members? All right, I'll call for a vote then. So we're going to vote on approval of the 2025 financial plan final it's the final review of the plan. Thank you. And we're voting to recommend it to the Board of Supervisors. I have a bird in my ear that helps me with this stuff. Do I hear a motion to approve this plan and recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we approve and recommend to the County Board of Supervisors the 2025 financial plan for Pima County RWRD as stated.
Thank you very much. And is there a second? All right, thank you very much.
We got it.
Do we have any discussion? I'm going to ask all the members out there to turn on their microphones so we get this vote recorded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? And I'm going to add something, any abstentions?
Yes, right here.
Okay, got it. Abstention. And the plan is therefore approved. Thank you.
7, 0, and 1.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. That was a long journey and good. All right, we're going to move on to the 425 period 10 expense report and revenue summary. Isai Santana, are you on there? Yes. There. Like to welcome you to.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, ma'am. Let me share my screen and we'll get on with the presentation. Excellent. I hope y'all can see my screen.
Yes, we
So
can see your
for-
screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. As of April 30th, 2025, period 10, our summary. For the total O&M expenses, the adopted and the revised is the same, $104.8 million. Our actuals are 81.5, and we're projecting to be 103.6, giving us a variance of 1.1 million. And majority of that's coming from the personnel, as I mentioned earlier, the vacancies that we're having. Scrolling down, the total O&M expenses, including contra, depreciation, and debt services, adopted budget revised 103.4. The actual is 139.7, projected to be 181.6, giving us still a positive variance of 1.7 in the variance. Scroll down to the revenue portion of it. Our adopted revised budget is 109 million. Actual so far 152, and we're projected to be 109.0. 5.2, giving us a slightly variance of 6,628. And that may change with a lot of revenues still pending out there. And the rating agency ratio is 1.36. And I'll pause there for any questions.
I just want to make a statement for everybody that, again, the county transitioned from its AMS Advantage financial software platform to Workday this year. And it's been still not 100%. And so because we're using Power BI and a lot of other people like Tracy and Belinda and stuff looking at things, we think we're probably even lower, below our budget spend on our expenses. But we can't be certain because some of the issues that we still are not getting data from Workday. So we're tracking it through our own methods and we think we're less than, but we just hate to say, well, we better spend that money, or, you know, we can spend that money, trust me, but we're reluctant to do that. So we may come in a bit more under budget and, that'll put more pressures on next year's because we didn't do some of the things this year, but it's really just from the transition of financial software. So hopefully next year will be a lot more mature at that point and proven, but, that's one of our challenges this year.
Will you have any problem rolling funds over? Is there any fiscal year issue that you run up against?
We don't roll funds over. We, you know, the Board of Supervisors will hear the final budget on June 17th. And assuming they approve it, that's what our budget is for next year, regardless of how much we spend or don't spend this year.
I see.
So, that's why, you know, it's kind of, we always, obviously, we manage our costs very well, and we always want to be under budget because that's what financial stewardship is about. But we have plenty of things we can always be doing and keeping our maintenance up and stuff. And when we don't spend it, we kind of get a little behind. So you're kind of like spend, but I don't want it to get the wrong impression that we're just wanting sailors out there spending away. So we just want to do the most we can with the funds we've been approved with so that we stay in the game of where we need to be maintaining and operating our system. But when you get behind, it does put a burden on future years, you know, the next year and so on and so forth. But we've been very close every year in both capital and in O&M expenses. But just because of this inflicted challenge with software changes, we may find a little bigger gap, but I think we'll be fine. But, we need to make sure we're staying on the, we asked for the funds for a reason. We need to spend them. And, just like, spare parts, we're talking about some things, lead times are crazy. I mentioned that generator, that part that went out, and we don't have that spare on the shelf, but I'm erring more towards bumping up our inventory on parts. So this is another thing. We could buy some more things and put it in the warehouse, but we're afraid to go there because we don't want to risk being over budget. And this says, hey, we're $1 million or so under budget, and we think we're more than that, and we could spend, but it's a tough one. No.
Right.
Jackson, are we once a budget has been approved, are we in a use or lose situation?
Yeah, once
that's
you've been approved for a budget, that's what you have to spend. And if you don't spend it, the next year you get a new budget, they don't say, okay, here's your new budget, and you carry over what you didn't spend.
That they don't keep ticking you, because you're a good steward, they don't keep knocking you down a little bit for each year's budget.
Oh, they try. It's always, the inflation happens, but the board and, county administration are always like, well, don't ask for any more than you asked for the previous year, even though inflation happened or, upward pressures exist. So that's the challenge we live in. Eric?
Is there anything you're deferring because of the tightness that Workday is showing you versus what you have, looked at through your financial analysis?
Probably my raise. No, Tracy, can you think of anything offhand that we're kind of holding up back on?
No, I think we're spending as usual. I know Steve for the emergency repairs, check in with me. And I look at the budget and it's like, I feel confident that we can do it, but I don't think we're holding back on anything major across the department.
You know, one thing, Eric, that happens, and this is on our, not on our operations and maintenance budget, but on our capital budget, you know, projects are off to the races, and each year we say, well, this is how much on each project we expect to spend. But sometimes some delay happens, or, you know, take the Canoa Ranch, you know, extension, how many times have we had to reevaluate that? So, you know, we expect we're gonna spend 55, almost 56 million in capital, but then we see that we're falling short. But we do have, especially these buckets of capital projects like manhole maintenance or sewer line repairs. We're targeting these projects in our capital to rehab and improve the life of the asset. But if one of these other projects drops behind schedule, well, let's go to these next list of projects. So we've had more success keeping up the full spend rate on capital, but this year it's also low, but we also started using a central group to do some of our projects. So I think we're pretty close on ours, but I think the central group is a little bit behind on some of them. They're on the call here, so I just wanted to poke them in the eye a little bit, but that's all, you know. But you know, the goal is always to spend the funds that were approved because we justified why we need them. But don't go over, but in not going over and the different challenges you face, it's hard sometimes to get right up to it. And so we'll see where we come in, but I'm expecting O&M to be a little bit lower than normal because of the transition to the software. And we'll see where we are on some of the capital projects at the end of the year, but I think we're gonna be a little lower there too.
Okay, thank you.
Very useful. Any other questions or thoughts on this topic? This time? No? All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Isai. We
My pleasure.
will move on to the financial subcommittee report. Is Matt on the call? No, he's not. Eric?
That's not, no meetings, no, nothing scheduled.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to item 7, the CIP subcommittee report. Asia?
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I don't have any updates, except to let everyone know that we are meeting, July 14th. So the subcommittee will be meeting, to discuss longer term planning.
Thank you. And then moving on to the Citizen Water Advisory Committee, Alan, are you able to give us an update?
Yeah, so CWAC met on May 7th. The main informational topic was renewal of Tucson Water's designation of assured water supply. We call that a DAWS, but yeah, so it was up, I think, they had to renew about every 10 years. I think we did it in 2014, and then now they're doing it. It's actually 2024, but the process takes quite a while. So I think they just finally got their, complete notice on it. So I think it still has a little bit more to go before it's totally approved, but it's all accepted. And so I think it's there. I neglected to jot down some of the, I did put some of it. So in the 2024 DAWS, basically, because of the demands have gone down so much, their projections for use in 2024 are actually lower than what they were in 2014. So they can actually, with the same amount of resources, they can actually, provide more growth with basically those same resources. So that's kind of the upshot in all of this, is that I think their demands in 2014, their estimated demands were up almost 117,000 acre feet per year. And in 2024, that same estimate has gone down to 108,000 acre feet per year. So
It's really quite remarkable, isn't it?
yeah, it is.
Like we just, 10 years ago, we thought we were at the end of this curve
Yeah,
and we just keep,
keep going. And, there was some discussion from some that said, well, you know, are we even taking it down as low as we can because we've seen such declines? But the answer to that was they pretty much have to stay within what Department of Water Resources, Arizona Department of Water Resources. They kind of set those, you know, so a single family home would have this much demand and so forth. So, and it's based on, you know, planning and zoning. So there really isn't a lot of room to play with, you know, putting conservation in there. So there's an acknowledgement that this might not even be as low as what we'll see in 2024. But these are the numbers that are approved, you know, moving forward. So it could still keep going down. You know,
Yeah.
even more than that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Alan, your dates are from 2014 to 2024. The process that you're in now is reallocating or revamping the assured water supply. Does that date start on the 2024, or does it, because it takes that length of time in there, it actually kicks up to 2025, 2026?
Yeah, I think the existing one stays in place until they actually give you a certificate or whatever for the, you
Okay,
know, the approval. So it's just kind of it's sort of like your insurance, you know, you buy a new car, your old insurance covers you until you can get new insurance. I think that's kind of how this works too. And they're not bumping up against any
Right.
limits.
I was just thinking that if they give you the new insurance policy, so to speak, it's actually backdated to 2024,
Yeah.
or does it start within the time frame that it's actually approved?
Well, I think technically it'll stay the 2024 renewal. So yeah, I guess from that standpoint, it's only in effect from 2024 to 2034.
Right,
I'll have to look at it again.
It's,
okay,
it's like it's my understanding, it's like a designation that, okay, you met your criteria and,
yeah, you're turned in all the
to go.
paperwork and all.
Yeah.
We just have to spend time looking at it.
Well, and you met your safe yield requirements. So it's
And like I
more
said,
than
they're
that,
not,
more than just the paperwork.
they're not bumping up against anything under the existing designation. So there's really no, you know,
Yeah.
nothing critical there.
Thank you, that's great. We're gonna move on.
Can I just
Yes,
ask a
of
question?
course.
Was there any CWAC discussion anymore on the differential water rates?
There wasn't, but actually, I haven't had any chance to verify this or anything, and maybe you know more, Jackson, but there was a comment made from one of the members that, the county decided not to oppose the new effort. I haven't seen any. I haven't been able to confirm that, but I don't know, but supposedly there was an article out there somewhere that the Board of Supervisors formally decided not to oppose it, so I don't know, do you know anything more on
Yeah,
that?
I've heard something along those
Okay.
lines too, but for different reasons. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
Not like an endorsement for
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
why
No, I
are
don't- I
we
don't
public
mean
interest
to-
fighting, you know?
don't mean to spread rumors, but that was the only discussion.
There was an opinion piece about it, I think a
Okay.
couple days ago that was talking about the added cost to supply water to upgrading users in the county. And I don't know, that's the first one I've seen really explicitly talking about some of the other side. So it does seem like there's a shift.
Yeah, and I neglected, I was gonna go kind of search the net and see if I could find what they were talking about, but I didn't.
It didn't mention the Board of Supervisors in particular, but it was a good opinion piece.
Yes.
Detailed.
And it's just a coincidence that city council members' toilets start backing up.
Just saying.
Just happens. Just happens. Okay, so, we're gonna move on to future agenda items and, every time she moves quickly, I'm like, What is it? What did I do? What do I need to do? Okay, so in your plan, you do, in your packet sent out is the work plan for 2025. You can see there's no meeting in July, so we're off. That month, we are meeting next month. We're gonna have an election of officers for next month, so please do get your nominations in. And then, does this include the chairs of the committees as well?
Yes, we haven't, last year, and I believe the year before that, we didn't actually formally bring the subcommittees up just for evaluation or nominations for either committee members or for the chairs. They're all volunteer, is it 5 members? I think it's five members in the subcommittees. If anybody doesn't want to be on the subcommittee anymore, they can let us know, or if anybody would like to put their hat in the ring and would like to be on the subcommittee. But I think evaluating the chairs of the full committee and the subcommittees would be
Part of that?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. All right. So please, I guess you can write to you or,
What I will do is I will send everybody an email in the committee, asking for nominations or recommendations, for the full and the CIP and financial subcommittee chair, positions, as well as the vice chair position for the full, we're just the full committee, just for the full committee. And, I'll give you a date. If you have no recommendations, just drop me a line and say, I don't have any recommendations, move on to the next person. Just let me know that some form of response, even if you don't have any names that you want to put in the hat.
okay. All right. That's great. So that's for next month. There are a couple topics that I've thought about. One is, I believe I read something recently about changes in rules for reuse of wastewater for potable. Is that true? Is there some new statewide rules on that?
Yeah, so, Max has been more closely involved in working real close with Tucson Water on this, that, Tucson Water has announced they're gonna take our trace rails effluent and convert it into, through AWP and water purification methods to drinking water and serving it. But that's not until like 2031, I think is the date I heard, 31. But before they do that, they have to do a demonstration plant, which is like a pilot size, which won't serve. It's just to demonstrate that the technologies that they have been mastered and, whatever that requirement is. But with the rules that ADQ and the state has imposed, there's a lot of concerns from all the different water providers and wastewater providers, some things that I think are overkill and cumbersome and costly and may prevent some of people from doing it. So I think some of that is still being lobbied or discussed, but Max?
I'll have some update on my next month. I'll be presenting our CREO update.
Okay.
I'll have some update on that. I'm not gonna spend the whole time. And if you decide that you want a more in-depth discussion just on that topic in the future, perhaps we can arrange that.
Okay.
But it's gonna be a multi-year thing.
Right.
And
there's some, I'm sorry, there's some involvement of more real-time or quick testing of the water. Isn't that
There's
part of the?
There's a requirement of enhanced source control. That's a
Right.
beefed up pretreatment program altogether
Uh-huh.
as an ongoing effort. There's supposed to be some inline monitoring, and like alert systems monitoring, so that they can maybe shut the feed off to the AWD facility. Yeah, you're correct. There's a lot of those things in the new rule.
Okay. All right. Well, I certainly don't need it to happen right away, but it's something I'm very interested in, and I don't know what the rest of the committee feels, but I think this is the way for the future, and we need to be aware of it.
Yep.
The other thing that I was at the Water Resources Research Center yesterday for their annual conference, and And we're all familiar with, cap allocation changes and the discussions that are happening in the two basin, discussions, for allocating cap water. And so I think sometime in the next year, we should have some information on how that impacts both Tucson Water and ourselves.
Similar some projects, it's probably a pretty good place to go to get, you know, good information.
Yeah, we'll determine who should present something on that to the committee and.
Yeah.
Again, that's not something that's like critical for right now, but
Yeah.
it's an evolving situation and it's gonna really evolve this year. It's gonna hit high.
Maybe in November, that might fit
Yeah,
with the long range plan.
yeah, that would probably be great. So those are two things that came to mind for me. Anybody else on future agenda items? We haven't had a good discussion about that in a while and make sure people have chance to share their ideas. Okay, I'll just keep thinking of things. I'll just think away. All right, any other, future agenda item discussions here today? No? All right, we're gonna move on to the last one, which is call to the audience. Is there, are there any audience members that now feel compelled to share their thoughts? No? Okay, move on, and I will call for adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All right. And all those in favor say aye. Oh,
Aye.
sorry, discussion, any discussion? We must stay. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Have a great month and we'll see you here in the end of June. All right, take care. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Jim. Right there, I'm gonna catch it.
Yeah.
Okay.